Welcome to another Ubisoft game. This was
Oh
recorded
my god, I remember this game. This was supposed to kill Halo. And it
pretty
failed
much.
at killing Halo.
Well,
Okay,
well, well, Joey. If even Guerrilla Games couldn't do it, what makes Free Radical think they can do
again,
it?
this was done by the developer, the team behind the Time Splitters series, and there's a long history behind it. I will mention this during the course of this playthrough, but I really recommend, much like with the Golden Axe Beast Rider, to watch Madman Muscle's What Happened video about it. Link in the description, might as well. So this is Haze, a first-person shooter with an interesting setting. Essentially, in the future, there is a sort of a war where some soldiers get injected a particular drug called Nectar in order to soften up the horrors of a war, in order to be more efficient on the field. But it's very addictive, and it can turn into beast potentially. So the idea behind it was to seek the perspective of someone who shifts from being one of his soldiers to actually combat the others in order to free them from that situation. The problem is that most of the plot that was already in development essentially got scrapped and rewrote very hastily at the last second. A lot of maps were not present in the launch and actually had to be launched with a DLC later on, with multiplayer maps that were in stuff like the trader. A lot of concept was scrapped away, and the finished game is a mess. I actually got this for like what, $5 at a Kex, and I still think I spent too much on this. But you'll be able to see in due time. I'm just customizing the multiplayer frag that will never show up because I don't know, the multiplayer is deader than dead in this. Basically, Ubisoft actually wanted to have an FPS. Remember, this was still the time. This was either around 2008, the time where we are not super capitalizing on Tom Clancy stuff aside from Splinter Cell. So they wanted to have a competitor towards stuff like Call of Duty and Battlefield and Medal of Honor. So, however, they fucked up the marketing a lot by marketing these as the Halo killer and making an exclusive for the PS3. Sources report that it was supposed to be multi-plat, but essentially they wanted instead to have a temporary exclusive, but the launch was so terrible that they did not actually, eventually went through with it.
So let's see, how are we gonna try and make a Halo killer? Oh, well, we'll make a game that probably would have sold better on release to multiple platforms. Platform exclusive! Damn, we Ubisoft are so smart.
Oh man! And by the way, this is basically what killed Free Radical Design, essentially, because they wanted to go on with the Time Splitter series, but this was also an unfortunately other occasion where the jump from SD console to HD basically killed them. But more in due time because we're about to get some story.
My name is Shane Carpenter. I was born into a world of war. I was born into a world where unless someone makes things right, they'll never be right.
I was born in a world where we have to pause like William Shatner. I was born in a world that was not that well optimized. I was born in a world that probably won't be getting any proper sequels. Please bring me back.
Alright, this is our sergeant, Morgan Duval, played by Rupert Evans.
Okay, Pedro, are you a bad enough agent to
I wish the script was
game?
like this. Let's just say that the script is very dated.
And not in a good way.
No.
We're gonna get you fixed up and ready to move, buddy. Don't you worry.
Can you please pick an accent, sir?
I don't even know what these are going for. The echo that you're hearing is intentional, by the way.
It sounds like a mixture between New Yorker, Mid-Eastern, and British.
We call this one watch trap.
They say that because I'm skinny, see? Like a watch strap, sir.
Oh, yeah.
That's not funny.
Let me give you a hint.
Pay attention to this, it's important for later.
Like that track as much as I did. I'm sending big love to my homies rocking it on the front line. Just to let you know that we're all rooting for you. And
Sure. Surprisingly enough, this is not like the US military company, but it's more like we went for a more of a Shinra angle, and this is basically the contracted troops of an actual like pharmaceutical company that needs the nectar in order to have profits. Oh man, there we go. When they decide, basically it's controlled by an AI. The nectar is controlled by an AI that injects the nectar into your neck. Boosh, and that's a very lame catchphrase. And yeah, okay, like so far I can tell you this already, the effects of a nectar, the idea of masquerading the war effect are cute idea, but it's not done very effectively. You will mostly have that yellow filter on occasionally, and the enemies will not spill too much blood, but that's literally it.
So let's start.
It's a neat concept, but we probably could have worked better a generation after the one that this got released for.
So let's start with the first obvious problem here. This game does not look the best.
No, it looks like it looks like a risky PS2 game. And once again, Madman Muscle mentioned this also in this video, but again, the developers just were not up for the challenge.
It tends to be a thing where developers.
My God, that accent.
It tends to be a thing when developers.
Godwood.
Now, I know this may be surprising, audience, but it tends to be a thing that when a developer is forced to work on something that they would not want to work on, rather than, their pet project.
Actually, not really. If I recall correctly, Free Radical actually wanted to be up to a challenge, but the trouble behind it were just so much of a strain. It was a combination of the deadline and the fact that Ubisoft was pressing onto them. But otherwise, they did wanted to do this kind of thing.
Yeah, I was actually about to get to that. Like, usually, when you get something bad like this, you think, oh, it's because the developer didn't want to work on it. Unfortunately, no. They actually were all for this, which makes the fact that this game was, well, kind of the reason that they died really a shame.
Alright, here we go.
You been getting your meds?
I'm fine. You crazy son of a bitch!
You trying to get us all killed?
I'm fine. Morgan, I think he's okay. You're okay, right? Yeah, I'm fine.
Look at me. You're not fine.
Also,
You're not on this
I know it's a
mission.
first-person shooter game, but I don't really feel any connection to whoever we're playing as.
No, and you will not be by the end of the game, I can tell you that already.
Okay, look. Okay, faceless protagonists are already a thing, yeah, but
You don't want to lie a bit.
it feels so disconnected. We haven't gotten to see his arms or legs or body, and I know what you're thinking. Oh, that's probably superficial, but no, I feel like there should be some bout of connection, especially if you're, in a first-person game. Like, that's kind of the point.
Not just that, you will see more as the game goes on, but this is... hold on.
You feeling righteous today, boys? Sir, yes.
Pick an accent, for Christ's sake! We're
The
barely
game was
starting
developed by
into...
British people, so
Well, that's the thing, the guy's accent...
Yeah, but that's actually, if I recall correctly,
Poison in my tea.
it was an actual problem. A lot of British actors trying to do an American accent.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that explains a lot. Okay, look.
Your Glory needs to found a school to teach British actors how to do an American accent.
Yeah, okay, so... it's funny that this game touted itself on supposedly being a Halo killer, because if there's one thing Halo does masterfully, it is actually making you feel connected with Chief, to the point where, for the first 3 games, Cortana, who, is Chief's interface, will show up on your screen, showcasing it like, like you're literally in the helmet or visor of Master Chief.
Actually, later on, we'll have it. Just for the cutscene is just done like this.
I want us all sitting around the table for Thanksgiving.
My God.
What we did for these people.
Again, Jova, we're gonna get extended section of gameplay where not much is gonna go on, so we'll be able to tell more in those.
Again, this feels like so amateurish of how they're doing the first-person thing. It's that one where
And by the way, unlike in a lot of shooters, you don't reload with square, but with triangle. That's weird.
Gee, will we finally get to see any body part of our member that we're playing as? Jesus Christ. Okay, maybe we might want to put on our helmets.
Push on up.
There we go.
There we go.
And you also get like a compass that tells you roughly where to go. The Nectar is actually on the right, if I recall correctly. You can decide to administer manually if you want, if you feel like you're in a problem. There you go. Welcome to Mantel Nectar Tutorial 101. This tutorial will help you understand how to use Nectar. Nectar is a revolutionary bioenhancing medication developed by Mantel Global Industries will help you fight smarter, faster, stronger, better than the enemy. The bar on your left is your Nectar gauge. This indicates the amount of nectar in your bloodstream. To administer a dose of nectar, which by the way are infinite, so you cannot run out of them, press and hold L2.
Nectar's the name of a card we use around here for getting this.
You can, it's also a common name, Lives. You can carry up to 6 doses of nectar. These will replenish over time, essentially. But
Nectar
don't
of the
go too
gods.
much. Don't go too much overboard with it. Otherwise, your character will start confusing allies with enemies, and you can potentially shoot your teammates as a result. But
Kind of an interesting idea.
that's kind of the angle they were going for, to represent the fact that the soldiers are more like bee like soldiers in a sense, that the nectar is represented. It's clearly represented in a way that's similar to honey. So we wanted for that kind of angle, especially because the war is for the control of the nectar. If I recall correctly, the earlier concepts were more like about dystopia, where the police was having this kind of drug into it, and you were supposed to rebel. But we essentially changed it into generic war on terror in a generic South American country, because that's all. Again, in case you don't know what you do, transform your product into a generic Steven Seagal movie.
Well, unless it's Machete.
Machete is just awesome because it does more than that, Dweebs. Come on. At least they bother to actually do something with it instead of, being on with the script.
Also, that was a pretty.
Hey, Steven Seagal's a bad guy in that one.
Yes, Pedro?
Also, that was a pretty boring ass tutorial right there. Like,
I know, right? The game in general has this feeling of being a slugfest. Even when the part where should be more exciting, or control a tank or a vehicle, or destroy this very powerful enemy, they feel like, okay, hold on.
This is another case where I really do have to wonder, was the company really so brain dead, or really that confident that just giving flashy advertisements would really make people love this game enough to be the Halo killer, when the game itself is this lame? And
also, for your day reminder, this, much like with every game at the time, this was sold for $60 at launch. This presentation alone is really unacceptable for that.
Okay. You know what? For as much problems as the game industry still has, I am so thankful that nowadays they're actually gauging prices for games based off of length for development much better than it was back in the day.
Unfortunately, Java, this is compensated by the norm being raised as a result. Now I don't know how it works specifically in America, but in most of European countries, most games now are priced standard for $70-$80. It's getting a bit insane.
Our standard for full price is $60.
Like I said, that's why I prefer going to CAX mostly these days. I can, if the price for waiting is to get an actual decent price for it, I'm all for it. Or actually wait for a digital sale.
One of the big problems coming to the future when it comes to that kind of stuff is later when we get the eventual proper successor to the Switch. Can you imagine? Because remember, Nintendo never drops their prices for anything. So can you imagine when we get to the Switch successor and we get games that have those levels of prices and they never go down?
Oh,
Jesus.
God, in that case, I'm gonna have to shop for my games exclusively at Walmart. Because Walmart, by default, always they always discount their games.
But to be fair, we don't have Walmart here in my country, so I don't know how exactly it can work. So I'll leave to your judgment. But let me talk a bit more about the voice actors. Okay, since most of them are British, there might be someone that you might know, so let's go with it. Our brave protagonist, Sergeant Shane Carpenter, is voiced by Bertie Carvel, a person who is still getting roles to this day, but it's mostly a TV actor. Let me see if there's something that I can recognize here. He's been used for a lot of grunt voices in Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO.
Pilot can hold out long enough for us to get to the
Oh, he was in
outside.
one episode of Doctor Who. There's that. Specifically, the Lazarus experiment. Yes, I remember that. Cool. It was for the David Tennant era. Let's see. Morgan Duvall, the other sergeant, is voiced by Rupert Evans.
Demon Souls, the remake.
Sorry,
Which
Dwebs?
that
Dwebs?
guy you just mentioned, Rupert Holiday Evans.
No, it's
He
just
was in,
it's just Rupert Evans here, Dwebs, and it's mostly a TV actor on his own. He's mostly the one of the recent things
In
that
terms
he's
of
done.
video games,
Oh.
in terms of video games, been in Demon Souls and its remake.
Actually, it's not listed here, Dwebs. What are you using?
Behind the voice actors.
Can you just pass me a link? It might be actually a different Rupert Evans. Because it's but most video game stuff here seems to be just this one. Oh, Jesus Christ! Yeah, this is the first sign that things are not going exactly as planned.
Yeah. Okay, so it's an interesting plot structure, you know. Introduce a norm and then suggest that something may not be all right with that
All right,
norm.
found it, Lives. Okay, I checked cross-referenced. It seems that the character that he voiced in the original version of Demon Souls might have been replaced. So I don't know. I'll let
No,
you
it
check
says
again.
it says
on
right
that.
here on the page. This is right there. I'm checking myself as well. It
Well,
says, it
that
says,
one, but instead IMDb doesn't do. So I don't know which of the two sides is telling the truth.
well, here's the thing too. Well, Beyond the Voice Actors usually is accurate about this kind of stuff. So
Anyway,
Yeah. Usually you can trust behind the voice actors on this.
Anyway, there's a character we haven't met yet, which is voiced by Carlos Sierra, which has little to no experience with it. Apparently was the narrator in Kirby's Epic Yarn.
Carlos Riera.
Well, that's literally the last role that he did in 2010. Anyway, hold on.
How far are we from the site?
Not far. Push up. We'll see you there. Then we can get some chow.
Also, you can definitely tell the fact that the characters are not having their helmets on just so you can recognize them. Otherwise, and don't get me wrong, I can respect that because a lot of games, like say the Battleship video game, instead have all characters with their face covered up, so you don't see the lip sync movement, and we all look the same. But there is literally no reason for the characters to run around with their helmets, off.
also, I don't
I
know.
mean,
I don't know too. Like from my experience of playing the remake, the Grave Robber sounded the same to me. So
all right. Well, I did check some roles actually did got changed. For example, like Gar Virland.
True.
Gar Virland.
True, but just based on hearing and my experience with the original, the Grave Robber sounded the same.
Sure. All right. Let's see. Then, if I recall correctly, one of your two subordinates here is voiced by a person called Chad Ellis, which was mostly responsible for Manipulation Department, and this is literally his only actorial credit, because otherwise he did work for stuff like Hotel Transylvania, the Smurfs movie, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Weird. Another one is voiced by Mickey O'Connor. Oh, he was in Curse Mountain, I know that game. Also in Mirror's Edge. The last thing he did was stuff in 2018, like the Crew 2. So there's that.
So, Tio,
Yes, sir?
how long until the moral of this game becomes apparent? Because there's quite a
Very
fun
soon,
fact
Joe.
behind it.
You have I already told you what's the length of his playthrough, so as you can imagine, things go down very quickly.
Oh,
This
do you
game
think
is
I'll
very-
be able...
This game is very short when you get down to it. The problem is that it makes you feel every single second. Oh, and by the way, each enemy has the same identical 3-4 lines that were recycled all the goddamn time. In this game, you fight, at least at first, these terrorists of this congregation that is called Mano de Promesa, which means the promised hand, which is founded by this guy called Merino, called properly skin coat, as we will learn more about later. And they don't stop shouting the same 3-4 phrases all the fucking time.
In fact, does the revelation happen in this part because the game's just that short?
It might. It's actually been a while since I recorded, so...
They got away with the Nectar.
But yeah, seriously though. So they bothered to establish that there is a helmet that a lot of people use out on the field, yet these guys just don't use the helmet.
And keep in mind, you don't need the helmet to be administered the Nectar. You just need the implant that these soldiers have that's connected to their necks.
Oh god, that looks awful.
It does.
It looks like a Ken doll for crying in the bucket.
Like a candle in the wind.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Oh no, I feel so sad for you.
Anyway,
I'll
I'll keep this page in mind in the meantime.
Do you know what I used to do?
I used to deliver laundry.
Don't worry about that. You can tell me later.
I was a boxer.
Remember, our character technically still is getting Nectar injected, so he's probably not thinking straight.
I get that, but man, the way he says that line with no concern whatsoever just feels like Narm acting.
Yeah, whatever you said, buddy.
Chop me up another one.
Administering.
Oof.
Let's get out of here. Let's go.
Dude, we knock these asses down like Skittles.
Good lord, this dialogue.
I don't know. Don't worry, Java, it's about to get even worse. But not probably in this part, but it's even potentially in another one.
Okay, guys, let's clear the area.
Clear the area? Looks pretty clear to me.
Yeah. Hey, you getting newbie nerves, man?
Oh, that's also another thing. Despite our protagonist being technically a newbie, he's already like a sergeant, and we don't know much about his backstory. What his family is, what he wanted to do. It's told a bit later, but it's very brief. Anyway, Waves, the last of these major voice actors that I want to mention is something that you might know. It's called Martin Sherman. Does that sound familiar to you?
It rings a bell, Bob.
It should, because for a long time, actually since 2002, he has been the voice of Thomas the Tank Engine.
Oh.
Beautiful.
He has done a lot of other stuff, like say Pac-Man in Pac-Man World 3, for example, or Killian in...
although
sorry?
it's interesting, thing is, Tio, round here in...
oh, specifically the US, the US version of Thomas, my bad.
Yeah, because we here in Britain, we didn't have, like, individual... for the characters until like 2008 or so.
Okay.
And now Japan's the one that's had different voices for the characters since the beginning.
Also, there you go. You can also potentially steal Nectar from your teammates if you want, but that will make them go on a frenzy, and they will try to shoot you as a result, symbolized by their lead turning red.
Yeah. Again, interesting mechanic, but I feel like it kind of gives away obvious plot.
It's very, very obvious.
Gee, look at that, an Ubisoft game that's not good with subtlety or hiding its quote-unquote secret messages or morals. What a shock.
Again, the problem at its core, Java, is the fact that what we're seeing here, is a fraction of a shell of whatever the original idea was supposed to be. This is kind of, in a way, it's similar to Draco the 99 Dragons in a sense that whatever was the original idea got filtered through so many different problems and things that whatever the final result was that we got, it's clearly not resembling what the scope of the original idea was. And at that point, my question would be, well, why bother?
Was this one as bad a media failure as Drake of the 99?
Could have been, but I can tell you this, it's not as glitchy, so it's functional at least on that.
Well, my point was more so, were they trying to franchise this entire thing as much as they were trying to franchise?
Well, there's a sequel bait, I can tell you that, so there is that, but no, there weren't probably thinking about having side materials. Okay, I think it's now the cutscene. Oh boy.
Oh, goody.
See you real soon. That was like taking candy from a crippled baby.
Ah,
Ah ha ha! Risque!
it's about to get worse, Drover.
And we did all that and we were a guy short. Man, I'm gonna kick Tier's ass when we get back. Yeah, kick his
I don't remember Time Splitters being this bad.
No, it's not.
Real capers, sticking them straight up on the side. Did you see the pilot?
I can't believe those little rats got away with our nectar.
I said, did you see the pilot? He looked healthy.
I heard you the first time, buddy. Let me run this by
Also, a bit of a nitpick. The sound design is sucky in this. Like, okay, seriously, it's hard to tell when stuff is coming from our own character because whenever he speaks, it sounds like it's coming from one of the characters aside from him. I don't know. It feels like, you know, when he's speaking.
There you go. That's your first moral from your sergeant. The idea of, you know, the end justifies the means in war.
Do I dare mention that bit with the story and what it was originally supposed to do yet, or should
Hold on,
I save
Drover.
it?
Settle the score. And their time will come.
Sure.
Pictures up.
Administering what?
The Nectar.
That explains your breath, man.
What are they, bees now?
What in the hell?
Well, they're yellow and black and everything.
Oh shit.
Yeah, that's the plot twist. These
All
are
right.
actually
No, I think
bees.
okay. To be fair, the getting worse part, I think it's another cutscene, but just keep that in the back of your brain. But yeah, like this is just already a mess.
What a great start, Rurek, guys. This game was totally gonna kick
Kill
Halo's
Halo. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
See you for the next part.
See ya.
See ya.
See ya.